Ladies and gentlemen, start your engine!
Hello and welcome to the 5th round of the Honda Racing Simulator Championship here from the Circuit Zandvoort in the Netherlands, and we're here for firstly the amateur class where we will have a 20-minute race for you, followed by the pro class a bit later on this afternoon. But yes, we're here for the 5th race. I'm Cameron Roger, and joining me today is Felix van Delft, who had his birthday yesterday, so happy birthday, Felix.
Thank you, Cameron. Thank you. I'm looking forward to this one again. Of course, a little bit of a home Grand Prix, or home race for me, I should say, here in Zandvoort, the Netherlands. Of course, newly renovated, just finished earlier this year. And we have the amazing opportunity that is also available in our factor too. So the drivers here today for the Honda Racing Simulator Championship will be able to drive this 2020 version of the Zandvoort track. Of course, main differences with the older track are turn 3-4, the left-hander, where it's a bit more banked and a bit wider. So I'm sure we're going to see some different lines there from drivers, perhaps in qualifying and also in the race, to get an overtake going there. And also, of course, the biggest difference is the last corner, which is banked as well all the way through. So it will give the drivers a little bit more speed throughout that corner onto the start-finish straight, and perhaps a bit more opportunities to overtake coming into turn 1.
And overtaking is what a couple of these drivers need to do, because with that only being 2 races left and 1 race after this, which means we're getting to the point where we could be crowning the champion. We got Rian Adisaputra, who's leading the way with 70 points. Alphen Danny just 1 point behind him on 69, and then Hendamo is third on 56 points, which means that they are the only 3 who actually can mathematically win the championship. And depending on how it goes, we will obviously keep you up to date. But if Alphen Danny DNFs and Adisaputra wins the race, then he will be the champion. But what are they fighting for? Well, thanks to HM Engineering and Honda Prospect Motor for putting on this series, but they're fighting for some really nice prizes. In the amateur class, the winner of the overall championship gets 5 million rupiah, then second gets 4 million, third gets 3, fourth is 2, and fifth is 1 million, which is some nice cash prizes for those guys as well. And obviously the top 3 will also get a trophy. So some good prizes that they are fighting for. And so far this season, we have seen some very good racing, especially the amateur division at the front as well. So we're looking forward to a good race as we are now into the qualifying session, and the drivers are now coming round to start their first laps, and we are on board firstly with Alf and Danny.
Yeah, coming into turn 1, you can see also a little bit different here. If you're used to the normal Zandvoort, you have a bit of a more runoff on the entry of the corner. Then this is pretty much unchanged. This is the part that is new. Coming into this left-hander, much more banking in the corner and much wider. Alf and Danny deciding to take the lower line here. I'm thinking we're going to see at least some drivers try the higher line there. Try and keep a bit more momentum, take a bigger radius around the corner and take a bit more speed. Slingshot yourself onto this straight, and then this corner is very quick downhill, so easy to lose the rear of the car. You can see Alf and Danny struggling with the rear of the car there as well. Masters the bocht here, this right-hander. Again, a lot of speed and dropping away from you a little bit. Then turns 9 and 10. Again, a lot of braking and turning at the same time in this part of the track. Here it's important to get a good exit once again. There's a bit of a straight after this, coming to the Hans Ernst bocht. The S pretty much. Braking hard just as the curves begin. Right, and then left again, gravel on the inside, so make sure you don't touch that, because that will slow you down. Now the last 2 corners of this track, including that newly banked Adi Luijendijk bocht. Here we go. You can see the banking coming up already. On board it's not that significant, at least it doesn't seem that significant, but when we go off board later on, you will see that banking is really prominent here. And for now it's 31.5.
Yeah, he actually gets put down to second place as Hendama goes a little bit quicker with a 39.2. We've also got Adisaputra, who's on 2 purples at the moment, coming into the 3rd sector as Devani Grahar backs out of that one. And yeah, Adisaputra goes to the top on a 38.7, over half a second quicker than everyone else. He's really been the class of the field in the previous few races, at least on the raw speed, even if he has had a couple of races where he didn't win. He has still looked very quick indeed, as Muammar now coming around the final corner quite a way down on the pole position time. You see on the bottom right, he is 1.5 seconds down in the first sector, 1.2 seconds down in the middle sector. So this is going to be not the quickest lap in the world, but where he's going to put himself in 19th position at the moment for him.
Adisaputra now just coming through the first sector to get his outlap done. Most of the drivers are on an outlap right now. Of course, this qualifying session is private, so the drivers will only see their own car. Pretty much they will not be able to see or be held up by any other of the drivers in qualifying here. In the race, of course, there will be drivers on track, otherwise it wouldn't be really racing, would it? So 10 minutes to go in this qualifying session, so still a lot of time to go for these drivers to improve their lap times, but so far Rian Adisaputra, fastest of the bunch here in the Amateur Championship.
And that's because this is a shorter track like we had last time out in Brazil. That also means you can potentially get an extra lap. Obviously the first few races of the season in Malaysia, Silverstone and Matsusaka, they were all really long tracks. They were well over 2 minutes each. Obviously this being about 1:38, 1:39, you can generally save a bit of time, not only on your out lap but also your flying lap as well, and potentially get another lap in. However, Adisaputra is doing a fairly slow out lap, but we do have someone else on a lap. Got Kartubi is in the 3rd sector, currently down 23rd position, hasn't set a time. And yeah, he's not too far off, but this is probably going to put him somewhere around the top 10 area. Where is he going to put himself? Yeah, jumps up into 10th place there.
Good call there, and let's go on board with Adisaputra as he goes for his 2nd flying lap of the qualifying session today. To turn 1. Keeping the car nicely controlled on the braking there. Want to be careful on the inside curb. If you touch it too much, you could flip the car, but you need to take the shortest line as possible, of course. Adisaputra also taking the lower line. Nobody really trying to take advantage of the higher banking on the top side of that corner. This is all flat out. Schijfvlak corner is the most difficult one of this track, I think, with these kind of cars. And you could see there, Saputra really sliding into there and also deciding to back out of that attempt.
We've got a couple of other drivers on their laps. Most of them are starting their times at the moment. Hendamo is a bit further around the track, but he's actually gone slower so far, so he's going to have a really good final sector if he wants to challenge for pole position, because as mentioned earlier, he is half a second off. Saputra's got such a big gap at the moment. Well, where can Hendamo go? No purple times on the board at the moment. He's going to stay in second place as he does not improve. Danny goes to 5th place. Shahab here in 3rd place. I believe this is quite a bit better than where he was in previous races, but he's slower on this track. Sorry, on this lap as well. So he's not going to be improving. He's going to stay there in 3rd place. But yeah, it's quite interesting, as you said, in that turn 4 corner. No one's using the high line. In a few other races, we've seen people can gain up to maybe 3 or 4 tenths just in that corner by taking the higher line. So I do wonder if anyone's going to potentially attempt that. So yeah, we will see how that goes. But yeah, just been told that Shab actually has a 10th place grid penalty. So unfortunately, he won't be starting so high as Devani Graha just drops him down to 4th place as well.
Jason Saputra coming out of the final corner now. First sector was a personal best, but second sector not really improving there. So let's see what he's able to do in his final sector. He does improve his time a little bit, goes up to 9th place for now with a 1:39.734.
And most drivers now going to be preparing for their final laps. Although Eric Chandra, who once again has struggled a little bit. You see, I mentioned this before, he's got the number 1 car because he was the fastest person in the pre-qualification, which got the 30 drivers to enter this amateur category. So he was looking quick then. However, he hasn't quite got the results from that. However, he has been vastly unlucky as well. But what he generally does is he sets the lap times a bit later on in the session. As we're seeing here, he has not set a time already. He's about 1.6 seconds off, so in the first couple of sectors, so that's going to be around 13th place he's going to be. He does a decent last sector, but he actually drops down to 21st, so he lost even more time in that final sector as well. So Chandra not really feeling it as we get further down the season.
Yeah, Mohamed Koutubi at the moment in 12th place. Good first sector for him. Still a bit of time to be gained though. Second sector not a improvement for him, so there's going to be a lot of pressure on this final sector for him. He runs a bit wide there. That's not going to help his speed coming out of the corner. We really want to take through to get a lot of tire smoke on these cars. We've said it in earlier races as well. In qualifying, the drivers really push those tires to the absolute limit and a little bit over that limit as well, as you see the tires smoking. But of course in a race they're not going to be able to do that much. Not an improvement there for Mohamed Koutubi.
Pranata in the final sector. What can he do as he gets to line? Done a 40.6 at the moment, does a 40.4, moves up to 13th position as Saputra's on another lap, but he's once again slower as well, so I don't think he's going to be improving his time. But Suayo now 22nd place, improving so far, goes up into 18th position.
Umbo Kambe right now in 11th place, just finished the second sector. I think he might be able to move himself up a few positions if he does a good final sector. A lot of curb there, almost onto the grass on the exit. This is the important part. You want to take the speed. Don't touch that gravel on the outset. That's going to slow you down, but he already gave up this lap for now. Goes back into the pit lane to try again.
And Loho down in 7th place. He is in 8th position in the championship. If you remember, he won that first race of the season with a last corner overtake around Devanu Graha. But since then, he's only scored 3 points in the last 3 races, which is why he's moved down to 8th in the championship. So he definitely has potential. However, as we mentioned in previous races, for Maisosaka, they had over a month driving that track with the car. They learnt it with all these other tracks. They've only had a week or 2 weeks as it jumps up into second place on this one, but they only had a week or 2 weeks to prepare, so that's why the order gets a bit shuffled up each time. But that's a bit more like it. Loho in second place, but it's still 4/10 off pole position.
Yeah, indeed. Still a bit off that pole position. Still about 3 minutes to go in this qualifying session as Arya Sena comes out of the final corner to finish his lap. Let's see. Not a improvement for him. Very close to his personal best, but just not enough to get that extra little bit.
2.5 minutes left in the session, which means everyone is going to get an extra lap. So a lot of drivers getting 4 flying laps here. It's always good to see as Ahmed now coming into the start of sector 3, but he's not improving on himself, but he's also quite a way off the times in general anyway, as Adesputra now on his outlap for potentially a increase in his pole position time. But once again, it's quite crazy how he's so far ahead of the pack, because he's 4/10 ahead. Then behind Loho in second place, there is hundreds of seconds, like barely a blink of an eye between these drivers. But Adesputra just has that slight step ahead of the rest.
Shaquille is already on his final lap of the day, or I should say final qualifying lap of the day. Of course, there's still a 20-minute race after this qualifying session. Coming through the Audi S corner, newly named to the I actually forgot the name. My bad. But coming out of the final corner now, Shaquille. He's looking good so far in his sector times. Might be able to put himself into that top 4. Let's see, coming out onto the start-finish straight, and does improve, but does not improve his position. So it just makes the gaps a little bit closer around that top 10 area.
And Hindamo, 5th position at the moment, making some improvements. He could get himself onto the podium at least for the qualifying if he keeps this going in the final sector. All he can do right now is stay flat out going to the line. It's actually quite a long run to the line, which could be interesting for the race, but he's going to stay in 5th position as he just misses out in that final sector. Alpha and Danny now coming towards the end of sector 2 as we get to that line on the road. He's got a bit slower in that middle sector, but he did improve in the first sector, so could be on for a little bit of an improvement, although it goes all over the curb and the grass for good measure on the exit there. And now into what is effectively the final corner, because the final stated corner, this one is easily flat out. He goes all over the grass there. He's going to lose that time all the way down to the start-finish line, and he won't be improving there. Savannah Graha now comes out onto the back straight with a slightly smoking tyre, but look at that first sector, only 63 thousandths of a second off the pole position, as we now have a checkered flag for these drivers. This is their final attempt. Oh, can he keep it? Yes, he can. He hit the anti-cut a bit too hard there.
Bob might be on for something here in the final sector. No, he's not. Never mind, I didn't say anything. He keeps his 4th place for now, and I think it's almost everyone done. Only Arya Sena and Richard Matthew still on a lap. Arya Sena coming through this chicane. Hans Ernst Bocht, now I remember the name. Onto the 2 final corners of this Zandvoort track, with of course the Arie Luijendijk Bocht being the final corner. As Sena touches the gravel on the outside, that's not going to help his lap time at all, and I think he is indeed the final driver on a lap here. Let's see what he's able to do. I don't think it's going to be much of an improvement. It is not going to be an improvement at all. So that's the end of the qualifying session here.
And Adesputra on that pole position puts himself in a really, really good opportunity to try and win the championship here, with Danny only in 7th position. So he could put himself in a position maybe not necessarily to win the championship today, because he is only 1 point ahead of Danny, but he could put himself in a position where Danny is going to have to do a lot in Portugal next weekend to come back at that. So yeah, Adespucha doing a really good job there. 0.4 of a second ahead of Rio Loho, then Duvanagraha in third place, Shahab in fourth, Hendamo in fifth, Shakil down in sixth place, Danny there in seventh, Senna eighth, Saprucha ninth, and Sathya rounding out the top 10 here in Zandvoort.
Yeah, great qualifying session indeed. We're gonna go for a slight message for our sponsors before we get racing here for 20 minutes at the Circuit Zandvoort here in the Netherlands.
The power of dreams. I am the front man who drives. My power keeps me ahead in the front line. My reputation gets me on the front page. This is how I drive superiority. By being in the front row. New Honda Civic Turbo.
Welcome back to the circuit. Zandvoort here for the Honda Racing Simulator Championship. And we're obviously here for the amateur class. We just had the qualifying session. I feel exciting. This is set up to be a pretty good race. Once again, Adespucha has a little gap at the front, but just behind that, it is so tight between all those drivers. I think we're going to see a nice race here in the 20-minute sprint race.
Yeah, of course, like we've talked about a little bit before, Zandvoort with those new corners might allow a bit more overtaking. Of course, it's still a relatively short and narrow track, so it's going to be, I think, a bit more difficult than compared to, for example, Malaysia or Japan. Those tracks are just a little bit wider, have a little bit longer straights. So, yeah, it's going to be difficult to get some overtakes done, but of course, we've seen, especially in the amateur class, the drivers can be very close to each other and can do some nice battles, like we saw in the first race of the season, where we basically had a photo finish in the last corner of the race. So I'm eager to see what's going to happen here today.
And this track is rather special. Obviously, it's been out for a couple of months now. It's an official Studio 397 track, and they were obviously able to get the updated corners, and pretty much the whole of Sector 1 and Sector 3 is renovated, which is rather nice to see that it's been added in so quickly. And for the races and the series that I've seen it on, it's generally offered a really good race, and it's certainly made Zandvoort a lot more of a racing track. The older one with the couple of corners out that's sort of much tighter and that sort of stuff, it meant it was a bit harder to follow, a bit harder to overtake, but I'm looking pretty forward to this race. It's going to be very good. But don't remember, we do have the pro class after this one as well, where they will have a 40-minute race to go and try and get their points. So a little bit longer. But for these amateur guys, it's all about getting that track position as early as possible, because 20 minutes isn't really that long. We're looking at around a 12-lap race for this track.
Yeah, 20 minutes, of course. Most of these, or I'm assuming none of these drivers will be doing a pit stop. I think the same will apply for the pro race later on. It's just a bit too much time that you lose with the pit stop, and you don't gain. Well, you gain quite a bit, but you don't gain enough to really make that worthwhile. You put on a new set of tires. So I'm assuming everybody will just go straight from the start to the finish on one set of tires, which of course will mean that at the end of the race, the drivers will be struggling. At least the drivers that haven't managed their tires enough will be struggling for grip, and probably will allow also some overtakes to be done there in the latter parts of this race.
Yes, we've got the grid coming through now, and Shahab with his penalty has moved down into 14th place, so he's going to have to work a little bit harder to get back up to obviously a position where he was before that. But if you remember as well, there's quite a big crash and incident in the first sector of the Brazil race, so hopefully we don't see anything like that, as Loho also dropped down to 7th place after his penalty. So Devanu Graha will be second on the grid. Obviously had a good race in that first race of the season in Matsusaka as well, so that looks pretty promising for him. Yeah, hopefully we don't get any repeat of the accident that took out, or at least involved, pretty much half the field, but back last time in Sao Paulo.
Warmup is as good as over, so we're just waiting for the drivers to get ready to get this race started. Of course, before the race starts, we will have a formation lap where the drivers will make sure all their tires and brakes are up to temperature and their minds are in the correct mindset to get this 20-minute race going, as the drivers will be getting onto their grid slots right now.
So here is the grid for the 5th round of the Honda Racing Simulator Championship, brought to you by Honda Prospect Motor and HM Engineering. So we've got Rian Adesputra on that pole position. Devanu Graha will be in 2nd place. Shahab will move up into 3rd. Hendamo in for Shaquille in 5th. Alfin Dani in 6th place. Then Loho will drop down into 7th. Ayasena is in 8th. Sputra is in 9th. And Sathya is in 10th position.
Then moving further down the grid, 11th Marvdono Kambe, Muhammad Katubi in 12th, Yuda Prasanta in 13th, Mada Andika 14th, Dori Pranata 15th, Erik Chandra 16th, Leo Ahmad 17th, then Ali Viravan 18th, Nicolas Argo 19th, and Septian Suharjo in 20th. Then the final positions on the grid are Colin Levy in 21st, Christian Julius in 22nd, Richard Matthew in 23rd, Dejo Ari in 24th, Enrico Chiesa in 25th, Ignatius Mokodompit in 26th, and rounding up the grid is Toku Muammar.
And Suayo is actually starting from the pit lane, so 20th position he is supposed to be, but he'll be starting from the pit lane, so he'll have to wait till all the cars have run through, and then he'll be dropping to the back of the grid. I do wonder if he just forgot to join the grid, because once that countdown finishes and the lights go out, you are then unable to jump to the grid, and as we can see with him, we'll have to start from the pit lane. But yeah, this is always where the nerves start to build for these drivers. They have obviously, you know, about 2 minutes of an outlap to potter around and get in that mindset for racing. Obviously we've had 4 races so far, plus the test race. But even to the guys who are fairly new to sim racing, which was sort of the whole point of this championship really. Haris Mohammed from HM Engineering, along with Honda Prospect Motor, they wanted to give this championship to the Indonesian drivers to allow them to get into some really high level organised racing, which is obviously an awesome concept. So some of these guys haven't had the most experience in the world, but a lot of them are really getting used to it now, and this mental side of the sim racing is really where you have to control your emotions and try and not get too overexcited and too nervous before you start the race.
Adesputra going slowly through that final corner and moving himself to the right side of the grid and preparing to start this 20-minute race around the circuit Zandvoort in the Netherlands.
Here they get to their grid spots, and Adesputra is actually quite far forward, so he's have to reverse back a little bit there to activate the start sequence. But Devanu Graha is quite far back as well, so I think if Adesputra gets a good start here, he can definitely lead down into turn number 1 as we wait for the lights. The engine notes rise for these drivers. And once the light goes out, we will be racing for 20 minutes here at Zandvoort for the 5th race of the Honda Racing Simulator Championship. As the lights come on now, we are ready to go racing. And the lights are out and away we go. Who is going to get a good start? It's actually, I think Hendamo's got a really good start. He's going to be challenging as we get towards turn number 2. As Van der Graha looks down the inside as well, but Adesbucha manages to hold on there. Hendamo goes all the way around the outside. He's going to be once again on the outside as we come towards turn 2 and 3, so this is going to be quite difficult for him. There will be a contact in the background. Alfred Dani gets spun around. Alfred Dani, your championship contender, gets spun around, along with Kartubi as well in the background. A bit of contact as we come through. Turn 4 with Loho and Senna there involved. Splutra's off on the grass. So all sorts of action happening once again on the first lap of the amateur series, but they are working their way through fairly nicely. Well, Shaquille goes around up the field. Shaquille goes around in 4th place. He's going to drop a bit further down as well. So much action and people spinning here. But with Danny there getting spun around, he's now down at 15th place, which is the last point. But he really needs to do this if he wants to challenge for the championship. But that is going to be such a big dent in his progress.
Indeed, Alfred Dani all the way down in 14th place. He is going to have to fight his way up in the next 18.5 minutes that are left in this race. Adesbucha will be happy. He's already got just over half a second to Radica Hendarmo, so he'll be trying to control this race from now on and manage to get to the drivers behind him.
Oh, big crash in the background. Who was that? Oh, that was Satya. Oh, he's gone over the chicane as well. He's collected some drivers. He completely, I think it was him initially, completely missed his braking zone coming into the chicane. Went over the gravel and went straight back onto the track. So there's going to be, I would say, quite a few steward reports after the race, unfortunately. Once again, the first lap of the amateur series has been quite something. Back at the front, Adesbucha's leading the way, as you said, by half a second to Hendam and Van der Graha, with Loho not too far behind either. So they are doing pretty well at the front at the moment.
Yeah, Van der Graha really close to Hendam in front of him. On board here with Van der Graha. You see him struggling with the car coming up the hill into Schijfvlak. This is one of the corners where it's really easy to lose the car. We already saw in that opening lap that there are some parts where the drivers really are struggling to keep control, especially they're perhaps a little bit distracted by other drivers around them. Of course, mistakes are well punished really quickly here in a race like this with people very close to each other.
Then he's worked his way back up into 13th place, so that'll be 3 points. So that's enough to keep the championship open, but that means if it stays like this, I believe he'll be 21 points behind. So he'll pretty much need Adesbucha to DNF in Portugal next weekend, assuming here he wins the race. So it's not looking good for Danny, but he's got plenty of time to get back up into a good position. And Shaquille also down 17th place. Once again, has a bit of a disappointing moment considering the pace that he was showing. He was well inside the top 10 and looking quite alright as well. So, yeah, a bit disappointing for him. Now we see him come on to the back straight on the back of Eric Chandra. Can he get close enough coming down into turn number 1? This is a good idea to see about the slipstream into turn 1, and it's definitely possible. Look at that, Shaquille on the brakes. Makes that move, and Chandra gets pushed down into 17th places. Shab has moved up into 8th place. If you remember, he had that grid penalty, so he's down in, I believe, 14th. But he's worked his way back up to 8th, so he is right in the thick of it, and potentially getting some good points today.
Yeah, good move there from Shaquille. Oh, somebody's off there. Not sure who exactly that is, but
Van der Graha, he was 2nd, 3rd place.
Yeah,
dropped down into 10th. Oh, and now 12th place. He's dropped down even more. Don't know what's quite happening with him. I think he's having some internet issues. He's dropping all the way down. So we'll have to see how that one works itself out. But he's certainly dropped down. I can see where his he's disconnected. I think he has disappeared off the screen. I believe he's going to have a disconnection. That is such a shame, considering he was on the podium.
Indeed, battle for second place here, sixth place. Sorry, a lot of drivers very close to each other. Martin Kambe, Alvi Shahab, Arya Senna is just in front of this, but Andika, is right behind this battle as well. A bit of a train forming. I think Shahab is going to try and make the move on the inside. They're coming into start-finish straight. And Kambe stays on the left side of the track. And it seems like he has a bit more top speed on the braking, though. It's going to be a bit more difficult. Shahab into sixth place for now, but is Kambe going to be able to do the switch back here? No. Andika and Pranata battling behind that as well. It's not really a corner where you want to go side by side through, so Pranata backs out for now.
Danny's now up in 10th place after getting past a couple of people, and obviously Devanagraha, who is now officially DNF'd, so that's such a shame for him, but Danny's now up into 10th position, only a couple of seconds behind this the battle ahead with Pranata, Andika, Donda Kambe and Shahab as well, so good potential for Danny to get some more points. And interesting to see that there's been quite a few overtakes to turn 1 already, just showing how those changes to the track have really helped a lot. As someone is off in the background, Virawan has gone off into turn 7 as well. So quite a few drivers going off there. Shakil's had a bit of contact there with, who is that? Chaser, as he gets up into 12th position. So yeah, quite a bit of contact, but also some moves down into turn 1, showing that these track changes with those final couple of corners are really starting to work, I think.
Getting past Chester there. Chester also Shakil dropping back, now also behind Chandra. Richard Matthew, I think, in the front there, went off track. Whoa, have to go 2 ways there. Richard Matthew getting a bit in the way of the drivers here. Shakil also involved with this. It's a bit all over the place now, side by side with Eric Chandra and Shakil. They make a bit of contact in the final corner there. Somehow, though, doesn't end in tears in the wall. Still moving a little bit around on the start-finish rate. This is going to allow Jessa to try and go around the outside 3 wide into turn 1. This is very, very tight and perhaps a bit too aggressive racing between these 3 drivers. Conrad now right on the back of Shakil.
Yeah, they're getting quite aggressive here. Even for some of the lower down places, it's good to see that they're battling so hard. But obviously, we'd like to see a little bit cleaner racing between these guys. But they are leaving nothing on the table. They're just throwing everything at it. It's nice to see, certainly. And yeah, that turn 1 seems to be a very good overtaking opportunity on this track, as you'd expect with it being quite a hard braking zone in these cars. Now coming into the middle of sector 2, and Chandra gets knocked once again. He's been hit from the back a few times this season, as now Chaser is having to battle Virawan, and remember Virawan is one who went off a couple of laps ago, which is why he's dropped down a little bit. As we now come side by side down the back straight, who's going to be big enough on the brakes? Looks like it's going to be Chaser there, although he always hits Chandra again, going very deep into that corner.
Battle for pretty much P8 here. This is Andika versus Donda Kambe on the start-finish straight. Kambe defending the inside line. Pranata behind as well, now getting involved. And there is a yellow flag in sector 3.
Yeah, there's been a few yellow flags over this race so far, as Shakil works his way past Richard Matthew just ahead of what we're seeing is Virawan trying to get on Chaser as well. So a couple of overtaking battles coming into turn number 1. So yeah, Shakil up into 11th place. Virawan back down into 15th, as he can't keep ahead of Chaser for more than 100 meters. So Shakil looking quite aggressive there to get past a couple of these drivers and get up into that 11th place. Noticing Shahab now is up into 6th, so he's getting even further up the road, which is looking rather good for his race. considering he looked very, very comfortable in the qualifying session. So already halfway through this race now as Colin Levy and Decio Ari are in the pit lane for some, I assume, repairs. Oh, big slide there coming into the chicane once again. Tracer's not having the best braking performance so far. He's looked a bit lively over the last lap or so on the brakes. Everyone might have an opportunity, as well as Eric Chandra on the back of Richard Matthew just ahead of them. So 2 overtakes potentially coming down into turn number 1. Let's see what everyone can do. Got with the slipstream. Can he drive down the inside? Well, we'll see Eric Chandra first down the inside of Richard Matthew. He makes that one stick if he can get down to the apex, but Chaser was good enough on the brakes to defend as well. Actually, Richard Matthew comes back on the exit of the corner. So he's managed to keep ahead, but can Chase keep ahead of Virwan, or can Virwan defend? Once again coming into turn 3, now into turn number 4. Actually, interesting that most people are taking that tight line. Obviously it gets you a bit of track position, but you lose a bit of speed coming out onto the straight up the hill as well.
Bit of cross there for both of the drivers on the left hand side. Very close to the back of the bumper there. Chandra really putting the pressure on Matthew, and Adi Virawan so very close behind this group, as well as Prasanta is now putting pressure on Chesa as well.
Yeah, good battles here. Obviously this battle with Chaser, 15th position is the final point, and points pretty much everything in a championship. You want to get every single point that you can. You never know what it might add up to by the end of the season. As once again going all over the gravel is Chaser. So I think he's struggling quite a bit with the brakes on his car in this race. As we're seeing a battle for 8th position as well. Pranata getting past Andika for 8th into turn number 1, but Andika's coming back through turn number 2. But Pranata manages to hold on to that one. As can we see Chaser defend on the brakes once again, locking up into turn number 1. So Prasanta is going to have to come back through turn number 2. Going to be side by side. He's going to have some decent track position, but goes too slow. And Chaser there holds on once again for 15th position.
Yeah, Prasanta backing out of that. He knows that it's not really a corner where you can go side by side through. It would only end in tears. He's still very close to Chaser here for 15th position, so has to have a little bit of patience and then take the position when the opportunity arises itself, as it does right now, as Chaser goes wide in Schijfvlak onto the gravel, and that allows Duda Prasanta to get up to 15th place.
Yeah, Chaser's been a bit a bit uncomfortable on those corner entries, as once again he goes wide, and Argo and Kartubi are going to be all over the back of him, as a bit of contact there. Already Argo gets past, has come out onto the back straight, more contact again, and Chaser's really struggling here, and Kartubi sitting behind if anything major happens as well, so this is not looking the best. Can he get it on the brakes this time? Side by side bit of contact with Argo again. As now exits corner to start sector 3, hitting the tyre wall on the outside. As Kartubi's now got past Argo into the final corner. And yeah, plenty of action between these drivers, as they're still fighting as we come down towards turn number 1. Who's going to come out on top? Kartubi's got a good chance here, although he's a little bit too far behind, I'd say. Was a bit further ahead there. Chandra's been hit as well, so tons of action here into turn number 1. As Chaser's managing to hold on for now, but I wouldn't be surprised if those positions swap in the next lap or so.
Battle for 7th also still not over. Mara Dorokambe is being chased down by Jody Pernata and Mara Andika. And now Vandani in 10th place, of course, championship contender, is right behind that. He has got to be careful, but also he has got to find some positions. There's only 5 minutes to go, and if he doesn't finish higher up, then this championship will go out of his hands.
It's quite difficult to be competitive in a championship, especially of a decent level. But also, when there's only 6 races, there really isn't much time for you to have a bad race. You can't really, have a race where you're sort of struggling, but you've got to be on it all of the 6 races if you really want to challenge towards the front. Now seeing him come down towards turn number 1. He's going to eventually come out on top with this one. Nice little battle forming here. Pranata there in 8th position.
Well, Danny here is going to try and go around the outside. Going to take the momentum here from that banking and get up to 9th place. Great move there from Afendenen on Mara Andika.
Yeah, that was just the example we needed to show you how that outside line is a little bit better. You can just take a little bit more speed, have a good exit as well. So he gained a few car lengths there. As Pranata is sort of looking there, trying to put Dondacambe offline, and that might work as we now come into what is effectively a hairpin. However, Danny is now on the back of them. He's going to be looking to get past as well. Now coming towards the back straight once again. These guys so close to each other. All 3 of them might be going even 3 wide towards the braking zone. That's not what you want to do. As Pranata sends it down the inside of Dondacambe. Going to be a bit of contact there as Danny's all over the curb as well. Now Pranata once again defending. Dondacambe is going to have to pull in there. As we're coming up into the final 3 minutes, already 2 laps to go of this race. As Danny's trying to get down the inside of the banking already. He's going to go on that curb. That isn't going to work because he's going to lose his momentum, and now Ndika's going to try and get past him. Coming down the start finish straight. However, Danny will then have the slipstream into turn number 1. That might help him defend as well. As we're seeing a battle for 4th position, we've got Shahab and Loho going side by side. Bit of contact there into turn 3. Now Loho, Saputra's got up into 3rd place. So Saputra's got past Loho, and now Shahab is trying to get past Loho as well. So Loho must be struggling here a little bit, coming towards the final couple of laps of this race. They've both dropped off Adesputra and Hendamo quite a lot. But Loho's dropped off the podium. Now Shahab, who has done very well to get up there, is looking like he might be able to get 4th position as well. But it's not over. A bit further back, as Dondacambe now is ahead of Danny and Andika, as Danny's looking a bit wiggly as well.
I think we're going to see one more lap after this one. As Andika goes at the inside of Danny. Danny dropping back to 10th place after he fought back into 9th. And going to lose even more points compared to Adesputra, who's still leading this race with almost 7 seconds to spare.
Which is quite something, but he's just coming across the line now to start the final lap of the race. And then Damo will follow in 2nd place. Preacher seems like he's got 3rd sorted, so it's really just a battle to see if Shahab can hold on. But yeah, Loho's dropped off quite a bit. So maybe Senna can try and get Loho as well. But these guys are still not, the fight is still not over between these guys for 7th, 8th position. They only have a couple more opportunities to try and get past into turn 4 now. And then out, up the hill. A bit difficult to overtake on this part of the track. It's all about staying close to your rival And then waiting for a couple of braking zones coming up as we get in towards Sector 2, because Sector 1 finishes where the bridge is in a moment. So it's quite wide as well. And Dika goes off on the final lap. That's going to drop him down. Danny up into 9th place. And Dika will stay in 10th if he doesn't make any more mistakes. Danny's struggling a little bit as we hit 0 on the time. And Danny's not had the best race, and Adesputra's going to have a huge lead as we get towards the final race, because he's going to gain another 5 points on Hendamo, and even more as Adesputra comes out of the final corner. He is going to be the winner of the 5th race of the amateur class for the Honda Racing Simulator Championship, brought to you by HM Engineering and Honda Prospect Motor, and he has been fairly dominant this race, so he takes the win in 21.5 minutes, and Damo will come across for 2nd place. Saputra is just going to hold on to Shahab, unless Shahab can just about get the slipstream, which he can't do. Loho will get 5th place, Senna will get 6th, Pranata will get 7th. Thunder Kambe just holding on from Alf and Danny for 8th place. 9th for Danny, and Dika in 10th. Shaquille in 11th. Richard Matthew for 12th place. Virawan coming around. Can he get the slipstream to the line? I think he's not going to quite have enough, so Richard Matthew will get 12th. Virawan in 13th. Eric Chandra will get 14th, and Prasanta with the final point. But Felix, that was a fairly dominant performance from Adesputra, and it looks like he's going to be the champion, even if we haven't crowned him here today.
Yeah, he gained a lot of points once again here today, and Dharma, of course, technically still in the running here, but I think it's pretty much done for. But of course, you still have to finish that last race. You still have to do that last race, and that's not going to be easy at all. Of course, it looks easy when he finishes in 1st place, 7 seconds ahead of everybody else, but trust me, it is definitely not easy to keep that composure throughout the entirety of this 20-minute race and not make any mistakes at all.
And by my maths, he's going to be 17 points in the lead of Alf and Danny, which means Danny will have to win the race with Adesputra scoring no points. So that's going to be quite a difficult task. However, that is still a possibility, and we will have to wait till next week in Portugal to find out what happens. But Adesputra, 1st position, followed by Hendamo, Saputra, Shahab, and Loho rounding out your top 5. Then you got Senna, Pranata, Dondakambe, Alf and Danny, and Andika rounding out the top 10 to finish the amateur class here for the Honda Racing Simulator Championship round number 5. Yeah, that was a fairly entertaining race. Quite a lot of overtaking, which is actually looking good for the pro race earlier, because one issue last time out in Sao Paulo was the guys tried to overtake, but it wasn't quite so possible in Sao Paulo. However, it looks like you can easily overtake here into turn number 1. But as you see there on the screen, here are the top 3 drivers of the race, with Adesputra in the middle, and then Hendamo and Saputra on the sides there as well to round out the amateur class.
Yep, great race once again, but of course it's not over yet. We've got a pro race coming up in just a little bit. Of course, that's going to be a 40-minute race instead of a 20-minute race, so that's going to be even harder on the drivers. And well, of course, the drivers are also a little bit better, a little bit faster than the drivers that we've had here in the amateur series. I think it's going to be a nice race for that as well, isn't it, Cameron?
Yeah, the pro guys have had such a good set of races so far. The first 4 races have been quite incredible, and even more incredible is that the top 3 have been the same every race so far. The podium has been the same 3 drivers, just in a slightly different order in round 2. And also Rakhmat has pretty much always been in 4th place. Tarun has always been around 5th. So got some very good names at the front there, and we're looking forward to that in a few moments time. However, we'll take a quick break, get some messages from our sponsors, and in a few minutes we will be back to run you through qualifying for the pro class. So we'll see you in a few minutes.
The power of dreams. Power of dreams.
You're looking for a diamond in the rough, and I could be quite tough.
Honda Civic Hatchback RS. Sexiness intensified. Experience RS. A pleasure in every drive.
Now, welcome back to the Honda Racing Simulator Championship round number 5 here from the Circuit Zandvoort. We're now into the Pro category, meaning we've got a 40-minute race for these drivers, and they're fighting for some rather nice prizes thanks to Honda Prospect Motor and HM Engineering, with the winner of this Pro class getting 20 million rupiah. So plenty of prize money to go for, but the drivers are already out in their qualifying session, and it is unbelievably close at the front as the first times have come in. Unsurprisingly, it is Suzuyo and Maulana leading the way at the front, but there's only 19 thousandths of a second between them, and I believe in Sao Paulo it was 16 thousandths of a second, just showing how close they are. But then Ferris Stanley is only half a tenth behind them as well. Then Iskander in 4th place is only about a tenth behind that, so it is so close at the front as we head for the drivers into their second flying lap here at Zandvoort. But yeah, we're already into a 38.6, so a bit quicker than what we saw in the AM class, as you would expect, but I'm sure we're going to see some even faster times as this session goes on, aren't we, Felix?
Definitely. Andika Rama Maulana, of course, championship leader, currently 200ths of a second behind Jaka Sisvoyo, but Maulana starting his second attempt of the qualifying session right now, taking a lot of curb here on the inside of the Tarzan Bocht. Now coming onto the new part of the track. This left-hander they take a bit of a higher line. I think not really. A bit higher entry than some of the amateur drivers, but in general also a lower line taken by Andika Rama Maulana here today, so perhaps that is the quicker line as well. Now Schijfvlak car very twitchy, sideways through here, and that's the end of his second qualifying lap.
Fortunately, I think he does have enough time for 2 extra laps, but that is not what you want to be doing. You don't want to throw away an attempt, especially when it's so close. As Jadwal now comes over the line for Sector 1, only 29 thousandths of a second slower. But despite it being slower, that is still close enough that he could make a good improvement. As they now come up, this very tricky left-hander, one of the only left-handers on the track really. There's only 3 of them, technically. As we now work our way towards the chicane, where we will get the next sector split, and yeah, look at that purple in the middle sector, but only by 45 thousandths of a second, so he is right on the limit here. He missed the apex a little bit in the chicane, but he's certainly got a few thousandths in his pocket as he now works his way out, uses all of that exit curb, and now keep it tight, keep it flat out through the banking. And now what can he do as he comes to the line? Can he improve his pole position, even if it's by a few thousandths of a second? That could be crucial as he doesn't improve. He went slightly slower in that last sector, and he does not improve from the front there. So he's back into the pit lane. Is now Iskander. What can he do? Can he get himself up into provisional pole position? Yes, he does. 2 purple sectors there, a 0.573, and he is leading by almost 1/10 of a second.
Incredibly close here in qualifying today. The gap between first and 6th right now is under 0.4 of a second. Ataya Kenzie on that 6th place at the moment. He's going to be searching for some time, try and get perhaps up to top 3, perhaps even further up. Whereas Stanley at the moment in 4th place, just a bit outside of that usual place that is either 3rd, 2nd or 1st, because Timo Iskander is doing a bit of a surprise here today to put himself on provisional pole position.
That is looking fairly good for him so far. He is in 7th position in the championship. His best result is, I believe, 5th place in round number 1. So that would be a huge step up if he can challenge for the win today. But there's less than a 1/10.5 separating the top 4, which is rather nice to see. Only half a second for the top 7 as well. 1 second for the top 10. So it's very close here as the drivers now come out to be on their next lap. We've got a couple of drivers out on their laps already. We've got Rahmat, we've got Edo, we've got Michael Christian. We've got Ahmad as well. Few drivers all on their laps currently. As now see Rahmat come towards sector 2. It's not that first line, it is this second line here where we'll get the time, and he's looking pretty good. This could be a challenge into the top 5 for Rahmat if he can keep it together in this final corner, which would be a pretty nice improvement considering, as I mentioned earlier, I believe he's finished 4th in 3 of the races so far. Maulana's on a lap. He's gone purple in the middle sector as well, so we've got him to look forward to after this lap from Rahmat. But where is he going to put himself? He jumps up into 5th place there on a 38.7. Maulana purple in that middle sector, only slightly slower by 7 thousandths in that first sector. This is going to be an improvement, I would say. Can he get pole position though? What is he going to do? Gets up into pole position by over a 1/10 of a second. That is a really nice lap there by Maulana, considering he made a mistake on that second lap as well. That didn't dent his confidence.
Dafa Ardianza also on a lap at the moment. He's looking for a personal improvement. Perhaps might be able to move himself up to 5th place if he can get a last sector in that is good enough. Coming out of the final corner, a bit of tire smoke, slight touch of the gravel there. I don't think that's going to hurt him too much. Now you want to take as much speed as possible out of this last banked corner over start finish. What is it going to be for Alianza? Not an improvement, only just.
This Voyo is in sector 3, purple middle sector. This could be him coming back. He's got almost 2/10 to the pole position at the moment, so he does need a decent final sector as well as he exits the banking. And he just has to wait a few hundred meters before he gets to the line. Can he get pole position? No, he only goes up into second place, 32 thousandths behind. So once again, so close between Maulana and Siswo. It's been such a good fight between these two all season.
Yeah, Ferris Stanley wasn't able to move up further up to third place. Timo Skander now dropped back, of course, down to third. Right now he's still in the pits to get himself ready to do another lap. There is 3.5 minutes to go, so I would assume that would be just one more lap for most of these drivers that are in the pit lane at the moment. Ili Rahmat is starting his next attempt right now.
Let's see how he goes into turn number 1, breaking up that white line, getting it down into second gear, keeping it quite tight, getting a nice exit. While working your way through the kink of turn 2 into turn 3, down to third gear. Really wants to step out a little bit. And now into turn 4. You really do want to take a bit of a higher line than that, so he's not going to have the best exit speed, which means he'll lose a little bit of potential as we come through 5 and 6, then up over the crest, and this is corner where the back end always likes to step out, but he's kept it nice. Use all of that exit curb. If you want, kink it back to the left a little bit before heading into this right-hander where you don't want to touch that big red sausage curb. Now on the brakes into what is effectively a hairpin, although it's actually quite open on the exit. Or working your way up into another hairpin style corner, but once again it's not that tight, it's quite open and take quite a bit of speed through it. Still in third gear. Now onto the back straight. He did a good first sector. What's he done in the second sector? Personal best again. Only about 1/10 of a bit off the pole position, so this could be a good improvement. Lot of steering lock there on the second part of the chicane. Now just focus on getting this final corner correct. Bit of curb on the inside, all of the curb on the exit. Keep yourself flat out, keep it nice and low on this one for the shortest line. And now to the line. Where is he going to put himself? Should be an improvement, but can he get any more positions? Yes, moves up into 4th place.
Demoting Ferris Stanley down to 5th. Stanley's got a way to go. Andika Rama Maulana is done with his qualifying session. He won't be able to put another lap in. Jaka Sisvoyo is on a lap. All the pressure is on him to try and get that provisional pole position for now. As he comes through the first sector. Let's see what he's able to do here. Some schijfvlak almost drifting it through there. But manages to keep the car under control. First sector time just about 400ths of a second slower than his personal best. Still very close to a good time though, so you might be able to find some time in the first and second and third sector, sorry. Bit of curb there on the inside, bit of curb there on the outside. Of course you want to take the most possible amount of speed onto the back straight here, braking hard for the Hans Ernst bocht. Leaves the inside apex there a little bit, takes the outside apex. Again, very close to an improvement, but it is not enough. Not enough for him, and he backs out of that qualifying step. Timo Skander also in the pit lane already. Ferris Stanley currently in 5th. What is he able to do here?
He's been on the podium each race so far. And he's struggled a little bit to have the race winning pace. However, he's going to back out as well. So look, lots of these drivers backing out of their lap. Taruna now. Not quite so fast in that middle sector, but improving in the first sector. Where can he put himself? He's going to move up into, no, stays in 7th place despite making a bit of an improvement to his lap time. Now Niklaus Steven coming out of the final corner into the banking, and he's making some improvements. He's got about half second or so. So this could be 9th position for him at the end of this lap. No, he stays in 10th because he lost a bit in that final sector. Now, Tabugas Farhan coming into sector 3, a bit down in that middle sector, but decent first sector. He's going to be about 8/10 off at the moment, so he's going to be looking to be around 9th, 10th position as well as a Stephen that we just saw now out of the final corner. Checker flag is obviously out. Only got 2 other drivers out on track in the form of Kenzie and Arik as well, but where can Farhan put himself as he comes across the line? Can he get into that top 10? Yes, he goes up into 9th position as Kenzie stays in 8th. Arik now final driver on the track, final person to set a lap time here. 17th place at the moment. He's going to jump up to, no, he stays in 17th place, so that is your grid for the 5th round of the season. We've got Maulana on pole, followed by Sizwo. And so the bigger news is that Stanley's down in 5th place, so if he wants to keep that streak going, he's going to need to get past a couple of people. Rakhmat once again in 4th, and Iskander doing a good performance in 3rd position. I think Felix, this is set up to be a really good race. I mean, just look how close they are in that top 5, 6, 7.
It is very close indeed. There is a second between the entire top 12 and only 2/10 between the entire top 5. So this is going to be very close. Ferris Stanley, of course, he's going to be somebody that's quick, but a little bit further down the grid. So perhaps he might be able to fight with Fadili Rahmat and Timo Iskandar for that final podium paying position. I think for the front, Andike Rama, Maulana and Sizwoy are gonna cruise away a little bit at the start, perhaps. And then we'll have to wait and see what happens, who's going to take the victory here today. Of course, favorite in the championship is Andike Rama Maulana.
Yeah, so we will take a quick break, and when we get back, we will run you through the championship and how that is going to work, who is still in contention, and then get you ready for the 5th race of the Honda Racing Simulator Championship. So we'll see you in a couple of moments.
The power of dreams.
I am the front man who drives. My power keeps me ahead in the front line. My reputation gets me on the front page. This is how I drive superiority. By being in the front row. New Honda Civic Turbo.
Welcome back to the Pro Class of the Honda Racing Simulator Championship, brought to you by Honda Prospect Motor and HM Engineering, where the drivers are fighting for a winning prize of 20 million rupiah, followed by 10 million for second place, 8 million for third, 6.5 million for 4th place, and down to 5.5 million for the 5th place. So some really nice prizes. Thanks to the sponsors for getting involved, as we are already into the penultimate round of the season. We've only got 1 race left next week in Portugal, and that means we're already looking at the championship. So what is the situation? Well, Maulana is leading the way by 6 points to Sizwoyo, which means he needs to gain 19 points today, which pretty much means he needs to win, with Sizwoyo not getting any points at all, which is obviously possible but quite unlikely. So we assume the championship is going to go down to the next race. Stanley is going to be out of it if he doesn't gain points. He needs to gain a decent amount of points, actually. He needs to gain 8 points on Maulana, so yeah, he needs to hope that Maulana finishes in sort of 4th, 5th position, with Stanley winning the race. So after this, it's probably going to be just a 2-horse race with Sizwoyo and Maulana at the top of the standings. But that's fine, because they have really been the 2 best drivers so far this season. In 3 of the races so far, Maulana has been first with Zuzwayo in second place. The only differential was the second race of the season in Malaysia when Zuzwayo managed to get the victory of Maulana down in third place. So it's been a very competitive season so far. And I think, Felix, we're looking like it's going to be a good finish of the season in the next 2 weeks.
It definitely is. We already had a very exciting race in the Amateur Championship just earlier today. Perhaps a bit more incidents there than we are used to, but of course the amateur drivers have a bit less experience and are just generally a little bit slower than the drivers here in the Pro Championship, which we of course expect to be a bit better. And I think we're gonna see some great racing once again by these drivers, as I mean it is very close in the qualifying session, so I'm sure that there's going to be some overtakes. Of course, the main spots for overtaking we've seen in the Amateur Championship is pretty much turn 1, where you can get the car up the inside or on the outside and get it moved on. Turn 3, 4, the Hugenholz bocht is also a possibility. Some different lines are possible there. We saw a few overtakes there in the Amateur Championship. And then Hans Ernst bocht into the chicane. Also something might be possible, but turn 1 I think is the main point for overtaking here.
Yeah, we saw some nice overtakes into there, so that's probably, as you say, where the main action is going to be. But yeah, I think this is going to be a very good race, especially seeing what Ferris Stanley can do, because he's been pretty much always in that third position with Rakamat just behind him in fourth, but they're slightly different positions on the grid today, so I want to see what they can do. Ardianza is looking fairly feisty, but he's only down in 9th place in the championship with a couple of 5th places, so it would be good if he gets a bit higher up as well. So yeah, looking pretty forward to this one, to be honest. It's a great track, and the amateur race certainly proved that, and it's getting to that point of the season where people might start pushing a little bit over the limit, trying to keep themselves within that championship battle, especially for Ferris Stanley, as he really does need to gain points on Milan today, otherwise he's going to be out of the championship when we get to that final race in Portugal. So we see what he can do as well. Yeah, it's been a great season so far, and I'm thinking we're going to get another good race today. Obviously 40 minutes, as we've seen in the previous races. It does mean generally the pro drivers take it a little bit slower, a little bit less hectic, because they have a bit longer to try and make the overtakes work. But it seems that the overtaking is actually a lot more possible today, so we might see drivers making a move a little bit earlier in the race than we've seen in previous rounds so far.
Yes, the warm-up session is almost over here, so drivers will be getting themselves ready to get into their grid slots and get ready for this 40-minute race. As we just wait for the final drivers to get ready. Who's your favorite here today, Cameron?
Well, Maulana has been the class of the field so far this season, only just. But I'm going to say that Zuzwayo is going to win this one. That's my prediction.
All right, that's also I think what my prediction will be. Last week I put my money on Ferris Stanley. Today I'm not so sure. He's a bit further down the grid, looking a bit off the pace today. Of course, he was very close in the qualifying session, so he might be able to find himself up to third. But I think winning it for Stanley is going to be a very tough call and a tough race for him to do so.
In a moment, we will go to the grid for the race, and as you mentioned in the AM class, that's really the lap where you need to try and get rid of all of the nerves, especially when you get to the end of the season. These guys are fighting for some pretty nice prize money as well. I mean, no one would really complain, thanks to a Honda Prospect Motor and HM Engineering for that, obviously. So it is a nice amount of money, which means obviously there's more pressure to be able to win that. But here is the grid today. We've got Maulana only just ahead of Saswayo. Then Iskander in third place. Rakmat in fourth. Ferris Stanley is down there in fifth place. Sixth is Ardianza. Seventh is Owen Taruna. Eighth is Atai Kenzie. Ninth is Tabagus Farhan. And in 10th place, we've got Mohammed Andrew.
Continuing with the rest of the grid. 11th, Nicolaus Steven. 12th, Mohammed Faiz Rayan. 13th, Reza Haryanto. 14th, Iko Ahmad. 15th, Delian Noor Hidayat. 16th, Rinaldi Edo. 17th, Esra Arik. 18th, Indra Ferianto. 19th, Isprayudu Bravovo. 20th, Mohammed Fikri Aska. And then continuing the final places on the grid is Raditya Indira, Ido Sergio, and Michael Christian.
So I believe there's a couple of actually reserve drivers who are not in the AM category here, which is good to see. But we've got Arik, who's not on the grid, so I believe he'll be starting from the pit lane. Apart from that, everyone else is going around nicely. And as we've seen many times this season, Lana and Saswo at the front of the field. Saswo is in the number one car because he was slightly quicker in the pre-qualification. However, it's been Maulana who's had the race pace. And in fact, one of the races he won by like 10 seconds. He was miles out in front. Saswo needs to do something. 6 points is the gap. And there's a 5-point gap between first and second. So if he loses another 5 points here today, then that means he will have to gain 11. Well, we have to gain 12 points. Because obviously if they draw, it will go on count back and Maulana will win, having more first. So Ro really needs to win this race. Or at least beat Maulana if he wants to have a good battle coming into the final race. Because that would only put them 1 point apart. So it'll pretty much be a dead straight race in Portugal. That is an exciting prospect. But also Stanley not too far behind. He's about 17 points behind as well. So he's sort of in the battle as well. But yeah, a little bit further away as they come around part of the quarter. Now I have to grid up and get ready for the start of this 5th race of the season. So let's see how they grid up. Then I'm going to be a little bit far, a little bit further back. Well, it seems like they're pretty much in their little white box. And then the lights will come on. And Arik is starting from the pit lane at the back. Michael Christian just coming up to his red spot now. And then the lights will come on. And we will be racing. As soon as they go out and the lights are on, Maulana on pole position. And they go away now. This is a bit of a bad launch in that second phase. However, Stanley gets a really good launch but gets blocked a little bit in the midfield. Rakmat goes up into third place. Iskander drops down there into fourth. Ardianza as well. Having a good start. Iskander getting ahead of Ferris Stanley as Ty Kenzie trying to battle with Stanley as well. All bits of contact behind there with Andrew Farhan and Taruna as we come into turn 4. But so far everyone is going along pretty nicely in the midfield. A couple of flashing lights there from a couple of drivers as we come up the hill for the first time. And everyone's following each other fairly nicely so far, keeping it fairly calm. Remember, they do have a 40-minute race, which means there's no reason to do anything too crazy on the opening couple of laps. You just need to get yourself in a good position to try and fight later in the race. Stanley's got sixth place, is probably one of the biggest things to mention from that first lap so far. As someone's gone off in the background, Taruna there has gone off. He's going to have to wait for a number of the drivers to go through. That's going to really hinder any championship hopes he had of getting towards the front. But that's been a fairly calm first couple of sectors for these drivers.
Stanley down in 6th at the moment, lost 1 position to Arianza, if I'm not wrong, and also Timo Iskander dropped back behind Rahmat and Arianza. So start of the race, not the best that first Stanley could have, as well Timo Iskander dropping back a little bit. Fadili Rahmat doing a great job so far. Andika Malana though, he's already got over 7/10 towards the front of the field.
And that is a nice little lead indeed. We're looking a little bit further back here, so there's cars off off on the grass and trying to get their places. Stanley does really need to get back on the podium ahead of Iskander, Ardianza and Rahmat, and he's got a good exit there coming out of turn 4. Up the hill through 5, 6 and 7. Could have an opportunity down here, although it's very difficult because the braking zone is not that big at all. Just a bit of a dab on the brakes. Now rolls into the end of sector 1. Oh, big dive there down the inside. That's going to put Iskander slightly offline, which could give him a good opportunity now coming out onto the back straight, although he's going to go round the outside, which means he's probably going to get chopped off on the outside. He's actually been given the room, so this could be a good move because then he'll have the inside of the chicane. If he can make it on the brakes, he's going to dive it down the inside. He's made that position work. Good move there from Stanley up into 5th place. But as we mentioned before, he really does need to be on that podium.
Good move there from Stanley up to 5th now once again, and now he's going to have to focus on Dafa Ardianza in front of him. Just over a second in front. Now Rama Marlana last lap 6/10 quicker than Jakas Svojo, and his gap is now increased to over a second already after the first 2 laps. Natalia Kenzie is battling here with Timo Iskander.
Yeah, turn 2 and 3 a bit difficult to make something work, but turn 4 could be opportunity. Who gets the better exit out up the hill through the S's? Looks like they've had a fairly equal getaway out of the corner. Over there, Iskander goes a little bit wide to Kenzie, trying to look for a gap. There isn't anything just yet, but there's certainly opportunities. This is a good corner to dive down the inside of, because it's a bit weird because it sort of turns all the time. There isn't really a straight between the corner before it. Sort of a long curve that you take in, so you can really dive down the inside if you're brave enough. But he's kept very close there through the 2 hairpins. Get a bit of slipstream down the back straight. He's going to have to dive on the brakes, but he's not quite brave enough this time.
A lot of inside curve there by Taya Kenzie. He needs to get a good exit out of this final 2 corners. Then he might be able to make the move stick into turn 1. Doesn't have the best run out of the second to last corner. He will have the slipstream, of course, from the car in front of him. I think his top speed is a little bit low compared to that of Timo Iskander. As you can see, he's not even really closing in, and in front is also some battling going on between Stanley and Ardianza.
Yeah, these guys are getting close. Stanley has dropped his Iskander because of that battle with Kenzie as well, so Stanley's got free roam to battle for this 4th position, and it's rather important for him and his hopes coming into the final race of the season this time next week in Portugal. So he really needs to keep himself. Was a bit of a crash in the background there between Dare and Rabowo, so it was all happening, but now a bit further forward we're seeing cars go all over the gravel and on the grass. I mean, that is Mohammed Andrew as well with Nicholas Stephen. The drivers starting to get really close to each other here. These top few are in a couple of little battles, and they're all staying really close together, even after the first few laps of the race.
Andre trying to get past Steven side by side coming out of turn 10 there, coming into the chicane. We'll have the inside line here under braking. We'll be able to make the move. Just a little bit of room given there. Just enough to get that move done. And Andre up to 9th position. Milana must have made a mistake somewhere because the gap between him and Sisvoyo is down to 3/10 even. And Sisvoyo is already having a little bit of a look on Rama Marlana here coming into turn 1.
These guys have had a few good battles so far. Not just on track, but also trading pole positions and qualifying times. But now Sisvoyo has the upper hand here. Coming through turn number 4, he's starting to get really close. And this is why I put my money on him. I do think Marlana has more potential to win the race by quite a few seconds, but I think he's also slightly more inconsistent. And that's showing there because Marlana obviously either made a mistake or just is generally slowed down a little bit from those first couple of laps where he really pulled the gap out. And this is going to be a nice fight between these guys in the last couple of races of the season, fighting for some nice money. So Stan in the background is getting all sorts of contact with Ardianza as well. So Stanley trying to make moves, trying to get up into that 4th place as well. So a couple of important moves at the front of this race, as we're already on to the 5th lap of this race. Is now Stanley getting side by side, and he's going to make that work with the overspeed on the brakes, although he's actually broken really late, but he managed to get that stopped. Probably helped him a little bit because he actually hindered Ardianza without even trying. That's Stanley now up into 4th place. He's got about a second to catch up to Rakhmat.
Yeah, Rakhmat is also struggling already. He's lost about 3 seconds now to the guys in front of him. And Stanley, we know that he's got similar pace to the top 2 drivers here in this championship.
We certainly do. There's also a big battle for 10th place. Stephen and Andre, even more contact in turn number 1. Andre's just got their nose ahead as they come through turn 3. Now into turn 4. You can see that high line is going to be very effective. He's going to get a good exit on the outside, and that is Stephen now up into 9th place. So Andre's having to defend from Fires Ryan. And Edo, as I think Fires Ryan's gone off there. So yeah, Edo's up into 11th now, coming onto the back of Andre. Andre's dropping a little bit here. Hopefully he isn't starting to struggle too soon, although this is really a corner where you want to overtake. Although Edo's actually trying it down the inside. Andrew was a bit slow on the entry of that corner. So Andrew's lost 2 places there. Fires Ryan is going to be all over the back of him as well if he makes another mistake. They're coming now into the back straight. Fires Ryan has got a good exit there. I think Andrew could be losing 3 positions here on this lap. Would not be good if Ryan can get the braking done into the chicane. He's diving it down the inside. Can he get it stopped? Yes, he can. So Andrew there, 3 places lost in only the space of half the lap. This is where once again very close down the start-finish straight. Is he going to be close enough to make an overtake on the brakes, or has once again Marlana got his top speed just about right? I think he has.
Taya Kenzie, Imo Iskandar and Tobago's Far hung very close to each other still as well in this battle for 6th place. Ferris Stanley also still chasing down Fadili Rahmat for that final podium position. Is he getting very close to Iskandar here, coming up to Schijvlak. Able to dive up the inside here somewhere. It's a risky move though, as the speed is still relatively high. However, Iskandar is going to have to watch out. Kenzie showing his nose a little bit, but not committing to a move just yet. These
guys are battling really well so far, up and down the field. Stanley's also starting to look at third place, so plenty of action here. But what is going to happen with these couple of guys as we come to the braking zone? And it seems like Iskander's going to hold on. Kenzie Farhan's not too far behind as well. These guys are doing really good job so far. Not too much contact between most of these drivers. As we work our way out to start-finish straight, once again, Cicero close, but not quite close enough. Stanley as well. But what about Kenzie? Can he get the run? I think he might, actually. I think he's just got enough here to look down into turn number 1. He's going to have to do a lot of it on the brakes. You can do that here because you can dive it right down the inside. All locked up a bit of contact, but nothing too bad, as Farhan's probably going to try and get involved here coming through. The King of turn 2 into turn 3. Can he keep his nose down the inside? Yes, he can. Awesome battling here between these two guys. And he's going to have now the outside line ball, bit of contact on the entry there. And that hindered his exit a little bit. But you can actually see now he's on the grass. He's been pushed off a little bit there. But you can just see he gained about a car length on the exit. Just because the extra speed you can carry out up the hill.
Royo is close once again. He's within almost 4/10 now. I think as close as he has been throughout this first half of the race. 15 minutes in now almost. Let's see if Cicero can stay close enough throughout these final 2 corners to get the slipstream and use it to make that move into turn 1 like we've seen other people do throughout the day so far. And I think Stanley's also very close to Rahmat behind that. Cicero, I think, is just a little bit too far behind to do anything coming into turn 1. Stanley, though, he's having a look on Rahmat into turn 1. He's just got a nose alongside. See who's got the better exit. Side by side still, the inside is going to be for Stanley here. Turn 4. Ooh, very close with Rahmat there. Outside line, we know it's quick. Stanley's going to try it on the power early. He's on the outside still. Getting squeezed a little bit there, but I think he might get this move done. Next corner is going to be to the right, so the inside for Stanley once again. Ooh, and Rahmat almost loses the car there. Stanley decides to lift off a little bit. Perhaps also scared a little bit by Rahmat almost losing the car there. With great control there by Rahmat to not end up in the wall.
That was a very, very close one to losing it. But Ardian and Stanley are here if they want to make some mistakes. And interesting, Malana and Rahmat have both got dashes next to their name on the time, which means they've done cut tracks on this track, which is quite difficult to do, but still somewhat possible if you go off the track. As Rose looking very close at the front as well, so that could be a potential overtake, as well as Stanley still on the back of Rahmat, struggling to overtake a little bit for now. As the top 10 is sort of spread out a little bit more than we saw previously, but Cicero is all over the back of Malana actually. Cicero could be in a good slipstream, but we'll just have to see what the top speed and slipstream is like. We saw last time Malana struggled so much to get close because also obviously the wing angles that they chose. Once again, Cicero can't get too close in terms of an overtake, but he's almost touching him on the exit of turn 1. As Farhan here on the outside of Iskander, can he make that stick? He's going to have to go the long way. We don't often see a move around the outside of turn number 1, and no. Once again, it has not worked, so he's going to have to pull back in there. But yeah, this track has actually proved really good for racing. We've seen some awesome battles up and down the field in both categories so far.
Yeah, great bit of racing indeed. And Cicero is not giving up easily. He's still very close to Rama Maulana, who's going to come out on top here as we are starting to approach the halfway mark of this pro race. The second to last, of course. Next week we're going to be driving the final race in Portugal. Sisboyo close. But this is not the point where he needs to be close. The point where he needs to be close is on the start-finish straight, where you can use the slipstream to perhaps make a move into turn 1. Exit here is important for him. Didn't get the best one there though. Perhaps throughout these final 2 corners, I think once again he lost a bit of time compared to Rama Malana.
Yeah, Malana had a good exit and a good top speed, so I suppose he's gonna have to try really hard. As Stanley now with those headlights on, as it seems most drivers actually have them off, but he's got them on. Coming to turn 1, oh, this is an opportunity because Ragman's got it too far there. Stanley, there's potential a better exit coming into 2 and 3, but he actually didn't gain too much, which is a bit surprising. Ragman managed to hold that together pretty well, so fair play for that. Good job from him, but he's going to have to try and keep Stanley behind for even longer now, as we're already on to lap 11, almost coming up to halfway on the race, so we're going to be looking around about 24-25 lap race for these drivers, depending on exactly the pace in the second half. Stanley once again is looking very close, as well as Siswoyo, but both of them struggling to make something work just yet. Because that is obviously one thing, is always Skander centered down the inside. Farhan centered down the inside of a Skander, but couldn't make that stick on the apex. But that is one thing when you get to a class like this. As Stanley gets past for 3rd position, that was out of nowhere. He wasn't looking like he was close enough. I wonder if Rakaman made a mistake there. But Stanley is through. Just have a quick look on my replay. Yeah, Rakaman went deep in the corner, all over the gravel. So Stanley's been gifted this one. However, Rakaman's now going to have a really good slipstream coming back. Stanley needs to defend this because this is a really good opportunity. He's been gifted this 3rd place. He needs to go quite deep on the brakes here to try and hold on, and he has done. However, Rakaman's trying to get past on the exit, but I would say that is job done for Stanley. We need to see if he can pull away now, or if these guys are going to battle further down the field as well.
Very close between these 2 drivers, and also battles throughout the entirety of the field. Iskandar, Farhan close to each other. Steven also started to close in behind them. Then also a battle for 12th place between Raditya Indira and who I think just actually dropped back. Something happened with him, so still a lot of fighting being done in this race as we are right at the halfway mark now. Siswoyo once again close to Maulana, but not close enough, I think.
Yeah, this part of the track is rather difficult to make something work if you're not too close. However, Ardi Hansen actually getting very close to Rakamat for 4th position, as Stanley's pulled away from them a little bit as well. So a couple of battles to keep our eye on. But we'll see if Siswoyo can get a good exit finally. But no, I think once again he probably has a little bit higher wings. We've seen that a couple of times so far, because it seems to me that it's a bit more difficult for Siswoyo to overtake Maulana, but that also could be because they are so close on race pace and just lap speed in general. That obviously makes the difference. Obviously you need to be half a second or so a lap quicker than someone just to make an overtake. If the person ahead is the same speed as you and doesn't make any sort of mistakes, then that can make it a little bit more tricky. But Siswoyo's been here the whole race, so Maulana hasn't pulled away. So I don't think Maulana's got this the raw dominant speed we've seen in a couple of races so far. So I do think Siswoyo's in with a really good shout of this. As Indira's left the race, so he is DNF'd, as you noted a lap ago. Unfortunate for him. 21 guys left in the race at this moment, as Ardianza is getting so close to the back of Rakamat now. so close indeed. I think he's going to think about a dive in the next couple of corners.
Yeah, here he goes. Up the inside. He's going to have a different line now compared to Rahmat, but I think he's got to move down there. Rahmat will have a bit more exit speed, but I think he won't be able to challenge for the position anymore coming into the Hans Ernst-block. No, he's too far back indeed.
The Ardians are then 4th place, looking real good for him. Because I think Rahmat might drop back a little bit. I don't think he's quite got the speed to hold on to that. As we end lap 12, starting lap 13 in the race, Maulana leads the way by only a few tenths of a second to Siswo. Stanley's in 3rd, Ardianza's in 4th, Rahmat is in 5th, Kenzie down in 6th place. Iskander still defending from Farhan for 7th and 8th position. Stephen is in 9th. Faz Ryan is in 10th. Edo's down in 11th. Andri down in 12th. Bruna is in 13th. Arik in 14th. And Fikri Azka is in 15th. Your final points paying position.
Farhan trying to find his way around Timo Iskandar. Iskandar really dropping down this field after he had a great qualifying session, but right now he is over 10 seconds behind Stanley, which he qualified in front of. So in qualifying he showed a good pace, but in the race here he's already starting to struggle as Farhan is now challenging him for 7th position.
He's getting so close once again into this sector 3.
Taruna fighting with Andri for 12th place right now. And Taruna just got past Muhammad Andri. Andri is trying to have a look back into the chicane. It's just a little bit too far back to make that dive in the braking zone work.
Siswo getting very close into 3 and 4. He's got to have a look, surely. I doubt he can sit here the whole race and have nothing happen. That would be quite surprising. But we did see that last time in Sao Paulo. That it was the other way around. Maulana sat behind Siswo for so long, with even Stanley just behind him. But then, with a few laps to go, he had his opportunity and he made it work. So Siswo needs to do the same. He hasn't really had an amazing overtaking opportunity just yet. He's had a couple of little looks, but nothing. No mistakes from Maulana that we've seen just yet. We're going to need to do the old-fashioned way, but what I can tell you is Stanley has closed that gap between himself and Siswo by about a second in the last few laps, so Stanley might be on the back of these guys towards the end of the race if we still see that gap come down.
The last lap around Stanley was roughly 2/10 a lap quicker. This top 2 is actually slower than Stanley and Ardianza and about the same pace as Fadili Rahmat at the moment. So is that Maulana just slowing down a little bit, trying to preserve tires, or is it actually just his pace is starting to drop already in this race now?
Well, that is one thing that we've mentioned, is the tyre drop-off. The leaders are already over 2 seconds, near enough 2.5 seconds slower than their fastest lap of the race at the beginning. And this is why a pit stop is potentially possible, because especially if you pit now, you're going to be 2 to 3 seconds a lap quicker to the end of the race. Is that enough to make up a pit stop? Well, that is for you to do the maths and work out, but you certainly slow down quite a lot. So if you can keep those tyres a bit longer keep them alive a bit longer into the race. You have a bit more pace at the end, and then obviously you will gain a bit from that. And Maulana, I would assume, is pushing quite a lot because Zwo has been all over the back of him for about 10 laps now. And it doesn't look like he's dropping off just yet. Maulana a bit deep into there. Zwo gaining a tiny bit. But this is the important corner. Probably the most important corner of the track. And Zwo is quite close, isn't he? But is he close enough? Maulana gets such a good exit out of the corner. Is he going to have the ability to dive into turn number 1? No, he's not. So Maulana has got a very good top speed on that car. Or at least a very good exit out of the final corner as well.
I picked up the pace again a little bit on that last lap, by the way. Now, Siswoyo was a bit quicker than Stanley. They were actually about half a second quicker than the previous lap they did.
Yes, that could just be to do with mistakes here and there. Consistency is one of the main reasons actually why some of the the top level sim racers are good, is because their consistency, not just the fact that they're quick, but the fact that they can do the same lap time or near enough the same lap time for 20-30 laps in a row. And that is really where you see the better drivers come out, when you see these longer races. But it's certainly very close between these two guys, as we now have 11.5 minutes left, so it is getting to that point where the pace is going to start dropping off, and the driver who saved their tyres the best is going to start benefiting from that.
Once again, Siswoyo close. I think he's just a bit too far. He's closer than he was last time around. Maulana is actually doing a bit more defending this time, but you can see Siswoyo just doesn't have the top speed to make a move stick. He is very, very close to that rear bumper of the car in front of him though.
And this is where that pressure builds up like a pressure cooker for Maulana, because every lap that goes by, he knows that he's one lap closer to finishing. But that also means it's even more pressure on him, even more time that he's been in this situation. Obviously, knowing the car quite a bit by now. They've been driving it for about 2.5 months, so they'll know it pretty well. They'll know each other. Obviously, we've already mentioned Maulana as well as Stanley. Even I think Atai Kenzie as well race in some of the bigger off-altitude championships in general. Not just, these guys aren't just the best in Indonesia. There's some of the best 50, the best 100 drivers in the world, and that's why they're leading this championship fairly comfortably. Once again, Zwo getting so close. Maulana's got a bit of a different line there. He loses a bit of time on the mid part of that corner, but then he always makes a lot of time in this final corner. As Zwo just loses half a car length, and that's probably just enough to not have an overtake as we're coming to finish lap 18. However, Maulana's felt the need to defend on this one. And Zwo once again getting very close, but a little bit too late to make the overtake into turn number 1. I think this could be a place he needs to focus on, is turn 4. But it seems like they don't recognise that the high line's got such good potential, as they haven't really used it just yet.
Farhan side by side with Iskandar now, coming through turn 1. Farhan pushing Iskandar a little bit off the track there. Iskander is now going to try and fight back. Out of turn 4, Hugenot's bocht. But he doesn't really have the exit speed compared to Farhan. Just over 8 minutes to go. So I'm expecting around 5 laps. Maybe 6.
Yeah, depending on how quick they want to be. It was just thought about it. He's just having a bit of a look, but he's a lot closer this time. He's a lot closer. He needs to stay close. This could be the opportunity that he's waited for so long. He's been behind Marlana for about 25 minutes. Marlana's not at the best exit. He's right in the slipstream this time. I think this is the opportunity. Siswo needs to send this into turn number 1. I think he's going to be just close enough to have a dive, but he's going to be sent around the outside by Marlana, who's going to defend on the inside. As now Siswo, can he have enough on the outside to send it around the outside? Oh, bit of contact between the two. Siswo all the way around the outside. Can he hold it? Marlana's got the best exit. The better exit, I should say. Coming through turn 2 now into turn 3. Siswo trying to go around the outside. Bit of contact again. Marlana's just blocked him off. And now Siswo on the inside. Bit more contact again. And I think that was his opportunity that he was looking for. I couldn't make it work. About 3 or 4 bits of contact between the two. Bit of a shame to see that. But Marlana is now leading the way once again.
Yes, Siswo tried and the gap is now back up to over half a second. This definitely helped Ferris Stanley close back in though. That gap closed almost 6/10 now in that last lap. So he might be able to catch up to these guys in the final few moments of the race. He can keep this up, but Sisvoyo is now really starting to drop back. Perhaps also a little bit of damage on the car after a few taps of contact through those first few sectors of this lap.
Yeah, that gap, I would say, is a little bit too big now. I'd say it's probably too much for him to get back in the remaining couple of laps, but we'll see if he's got the ability to do so. Once again, Stanley's caught in a few tenths, but not really enough to challenge for now. But yeah, Marlana, if this carries on, he's going to be leading by 11 points, which is, in the grand scheme of things, quite a comfortable amount, really. Going to be a nice amount going into the final race. He doesn't have to worry about Siswoyo winning the race because he can just sit in second place behind him and he will then be champion. So Marlana's put himself in a bit of a comfortable position here if he manages to win this race. But we still have a few more laps, 5.5 minutes to go. And that is certainly plenty of opportunity, but considering the closeness in their lap times, it might be a little bit difficult to make that up.
Yeah, of course, the other way around. If Siswoyo were to win this race and Marlana finish second, the gap will be 1 point between the two. So that will be an absolute cracker of a final race then. And then pretty much the guy that wins is the guy that goes away with the championship. As Iskander loses the car. Let's see if he can keep it out of the wall. No, he cannot. Slight touch of the wall there by Iskander, and is going to lose another position to Vice Ryan and Steven. Iskander making a bit of a mistake there in Schijfvlak.
Yeah, that's a shame. He was on for a decent result. Obviously had a good qualifying, not quite the same peak race pace. However, certainly going to be on for a nice result, but touch as his championship been so far this year, he's going to drop down a little bit towards the lower parts of the top 10. As an outcome, to have about 4 minutes to go, finishing lap 21. So I think we will get 3 more laps, so it'll be a 24 lap race. Hopefully that means the drivers are taking enough fuel, because as we mentioned before, this season, with it being a timed race, you don't necessarily know how many laps it's going to be, because that depends on the pace of the leaders and when they cross the line. Because as soon as the timer hits 0, then the next time the leader crosses the line, that will be it. So obviously if they cross the line with only a few seconds left, you then have to do a whole nother lap if the leader doesn't want to slow down. And Sazwo stayed just a few tenths behind but hasn't quite caught up, but Rakhmat now coming a bit closer to Ardianza, so this could be a move in the final couple of laps for him as well, because he's really starting to close up now. He gets a bit closer coming down towards the back straight chicane, but unable to do anything on this one. Yeah, with about 2.5 minutes, Maulana is going to cross the line, so we will have 2 more laps. Will be a 24 lap race, so 2 laps for Rakhmat to get past Ardianza, and he's very close actually coming out of that oval section. Going to go to the outside, coming towards turn number 1. He's going to have to do it all on the brakes. The outside isn't the best place to overtake, as we've seen a number of drivers attempt so far. But you might have good momentum coming towards turn 3 and 4. And he's used a tiny bit of a high line, but not an extreme one. Let's work his way up the hill.
Just very close to get back down, by the way. It must have been another mistake from Maulana.
Well, yeah, we have said that already. Maulana has potentially been a little bit more inconsistent. He's all over the back of him again. So 2 battles here in the top 5 to look forward to on the last couple of laps. Sazwo once again is there, potentially going to have a last lap lunge down into turn number 1, because there will be 1 more lap after this, as Ardianza now trying to defend his position from Rakhmat. Rakhmat's going to be pushed out a little bit there onto the curb and onto the gravel, and that's going to lose his momentum. Coming towards the back straight. Now come into sector 3 with only a minute to go of this 5th race of the season. So who is going to come out on top? Going to have 1 more lap here in Zandvoort. Only 1 race left next week in Portugal. Is Sazwo close enough for a final lap overtake? We've seen it a couple of times so far this season. Sazwo's going to have to absolutely send this. He's a bit too far behind to really think about it, but he has closed up quite a lot. And he's going to have to now do it somewhere else on the lap, because that is the best overtaking opportunity gone. As we now see Ardianza trying to defend once again. Rakhmat around the outside. Can he get the exit? Can he hold it? No, he's been given the room from Ardianza, to be fair. So Rakhmat now can have the opportunity to keep it on the inside for turn number 4. As we've seen, that outside line can be very good on the exit. Contact though, so Ardianza might lose a bit of momentum, but they're now side by side all the way up the hill. Who is going to come out on top of this one? They're still side by side, as we've hit 0 now on the time.
This battle for first place is absolutely heated up. Sazwo might be able to go for a dive here up the inside of turn 9. He's going to try it. Bit of contact there with Rama Maulana. Now they're side by side coming into turn 10. Who is going to come out on top here? This is the final few corners. Sazwo is on the outside. He will not have the momentum. Also takes a bit of grass with him. Surely that's going to drop him back too much to try and make a move here in the last 2 corners. He's braking late. He's trying to find the gap. But I think it is going to be Rama Maulana winning it here today.
Yeah, Maulana managed to do just enough to defend that. Sazwo messed up the corner onto the back straight a little bit, which meant he lost his momentum. So coming around the final corner for the 4th time this season, we're going to have Maulana winning with Sazwo in 2nd place, and that gives Maulana an 11-point lead as we come towards the final race next weekend. Stanley will come across in 3rd place. Rakhmat got Ardianza on that final lap. He managed to keep it going up the hill, so good job for him to get 4th place. Another 4th place. 4th time this season he's got 4th as well. Ardianza is in 5th place, Kenzie is in 6th, Farhan is in 7th, Ryan in 8th. Iskander, with that mistake, goes down to 9th place, and Nicholas Stephen rounds out the top 10. And actually, Stephen's got no rear wing on his car, so he's obviously had a crash somewhere to lose his rear wing. Fortunately, you don't actually lose too much from not having it. So he's going to keep that. Taruna down in 11th. Andri will be 12th. Edo will be 13th. Christian will be 14th. And Fikri Azkar is battling for the final point as we come towards the final sector. But now Arik is trying to get involved down the inside of the chicane. They're still fighting for position. This is for 15th place. It's the final point, and Arik has got that on the final lap. Now into the final sector. Can he keep it in the final corner? I think he will. Yeah, it looks like he will be able to keep that. So that is a position change on the final couple of corners, as Fikri Azkar is actually going to lose a place to Setio as well. So he drops 2 positions coming to the line, and that rounds up the 5th race of this season. But it's quite incredible that Maulana first, is Woyo second, Stanley third, and Rakhmat 4th. That is the 4th time this season that they have finished in that order, which is quite incredible. But showing they really are the 4th fastest drivers here, but also in Indonesian sim racing. So congratulations to them. You see them on screen now. But Felix, that was quite a tactically interesting race. However, Maulana still came out on top and is looking good to get that championship next week in Portugal.
Yeah, it was very close in those last few laps between Maulana and Sisvoyo, but like you said, Maulana just had the upper hand here today once again, and he's looking very strong to get this championship next week. Of course, he still needs to do that race, like I've already said before. It is not easy to just win another race, however easy it looks. So there's still a lot of pressure on Maulana coming into the race next week.
Yeah, there certainly is, with 20 million rupiah for the prize. So a nice amount there for them to fight for. Good prizes there from Honda Prospect Motor and HM Engineering. And here is final confirmation of those results. of Maulana taking them in from Siswoyo, Stanley, Rakhmat and Ardianza in the top 5. Kenzie, Farhan, Faiz, Ryan, Iskander and Stephen for the top 10 as well. And then you see the other drivers finishing down there, with Arik getting the final point. But Felix, that pretty much rounds it up here from Zandvoort. But we look forward to the final race of the season next weekend.
Yeah, Portugal is going to be another track that is a bit more tight, a bit narrower, kind of like Zandvoort here today. And I hope we are going to see just the same amount of battling that we saw here today, because we had 2 great races in the Amateur Championship and the Pro Championship today here at Zandvoort.
Yeah, next weekend, obviously the prizes will be decided. We still got the championships. Even though a couple of drivers have some advantage, the championships are still mathematically possible, and therefore anything can happen. So who's going to win the prizes, who's going to win the trophies, we will find out next week here for the Honda Racing Simulator Championship. But until next weekend, we wish you a very warm goodbye.